Welcome to Vanguard, where humans aren't the underdogs. We're the endgame. Enjoy the journey. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was never silent, but today it shook like a storm-vaulted chamber on the edge of collapse. Thousands of crystal lights flickered overhead as delegates from 53 star-faring civilizations argued, shouted, wailed, and pleaded over each other. A chaotic tide of alien voices echoed against metallic walls shaped like the ribs of a colossal beast. Every species present, tall, short, crystalline, gelatinous, reptilian, mechanical, had gathered with one shared emotion: terror. Above them, surrounding the circular hall like watchful gods, dozens of massive holographic screens replayed a nightmare on loop. A fleet of unknown origins sweeping across the outer worlds, turning them into burning spheres of molten crust. The ships were unlike any ever catalogued. Razor-thin silhouettes wrapped in flickering void fields, weapon signatures that defied known physics. No communication, no warning, no survivors. It was the kind of threat the galaxy believed only existed in ancient myths, the kind scholars assumed were exaggerated tales of prehistoric Star Wars. But the evidence glowed before them, undeniable. Admiral Kexnash of the Altarian Federation, blue-skinned, broad-shouldered, four-armed, slammed one armored fist on the speaker's podium. The clang silenced the worst of the panic as all eyes turned toward him. His skin, normally a serene ocean blue, had darkened to the color of storm clouds. "These invaders come from beyond our galaxy," he declared, voice trembling with old military steel. 3 star systems have already been extinguished, not conquered, not occupied, erased. Our weapons barely scratch them. His words rippled through the hall like a shockwave. Crystalline beings rang in alarm. Aquatic species rippled their color patterns in dread. Even the mechanoids, emotionless machines, shifted uncomfortably. The galaxy had known war, countless wars, but not like this. Before anyone could respond, a tall, skeletal figure rose from the highest platform. Grand Admiral Vexar of the Zephyrian Empire stood as though carved from obsidian, 4 eyes glittering like polished metal, long limbs wrapped in ceremonial armor that shimmered with embedded starlight. The Zephyrians were the closest thing the galaxy had to an aristocracy of war, engineers of masterpieces, creators of ships so elegant they were admired in museums as much as battlefields. When Vexar stepped forward, the panic dimmed, replaced by a strained, fragile hope. "Fear will not save our worlds," Vexar said, voice smooth and resonant. "The Zephyrian Empire offers to lead a united fleet. With our quantum shields and plasma lances, the most advanced technology in the galaxy, we can blunt this threat. Together we will protect our future." The hall erupted into relief. Delegates nodded, sang, clicked, or emitted their species-specific gestures of agreement. Representatives stepped forward one by one. "The Crystalline Collective will contribute our phase shift artillery. The Mechanoid Union deploys 100 self-repairing dreadforms. The Void Walkers grant access to our dimensional slip cruisers. The Plasma Lords lend our Stellar Forge weapons." Name after name, fleet after fleet, poured their strength into the growing alliance. A coalition unlike anything formed in 1,000 years began taking shape. And then, someone noticed the lone figure seated in one of the smallest, least prestigious sectors of the hall. Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth, middle-aged, gray-haired, human. Her uniform simple, her posture straight, her expression unreadable. Frankly, most of the council had forgotten Earth even held a seat. Humanity had no glowing ships, no energy-based fleets, no advanced technology worth copying. Their vessels were infamous for being among the ugliest things in the sky. Slabs of armored metal with visible bolts, outdated thrusters, and primitive projectile weapons. Humans were tolerated as an anthropological curiosity, little more. So when Vexar's gaze swept toward her, a sharp smile cut across his thin face. Predatory, mocking. "Ambassador Chen," he drawled, the hall instantly quieting to hear him shame the primitive. "Surely Earth wishes to contribute. Perhaps you have brought some of your charming metal relics. I am told they still use combustion?" Laughter erupted, cruel, smug, cascading through the seats like falling glass. A crystalline delegate chimed, "I saw a human cruiser once in a museum." A mechanoid beep clicked. "Chemical propulsion confirmed. Projectile weapons. Hull composition inferior. Threat level negligible." A plasma lord whispered, "Backwater primitives should evacuate, not participate." And high above it all, Vexar stood like a victorious actor on stage. Sarah Chen rose slowly. She lacked the towering height of the Zephyrians, the glowing aura of the Arcturans, or the shimmering fractal form of the collectives. But when she looked across the hall, something in her eyes, quiet, ancient, resolute, made the sharpest alien minds fall silent. Earth did not bow. "Humanity will defend its territory," she said simply. No theatrics, no excuses. More laughter, harsher this time, pitying. "Your fleet?" Vexar's shoulders shook as he attempted to maintain the illusion of politeness. "Those antique vessels that barely reached your moon?" "Ambassador, this is not an archaeology demonstration." A mechanoid added helpfully, "Historical data indicates human ship designs have not evolved for centuries." Sarah Chen did not flinch. "Our fleet is already in position," she repeated. Silence at first, then louder laughter. Some aliens wiped tears from their secondary eyes. An insectoid admiral buzzed, "Do humans truly believe their rust boxes can contribute to a cosmic war?" A crystalline representative chimed brightly, "It would be cruel to let them fight." But then, like a faint discordant note in the perfect arrogance of the hall, one alien delegate stood with hesitant unease. A youthful Zephyrian officer, eyes narrowed at old archived data, only he seemed to remember. His voice shook. "Grand Admiral, I have seen those hull shapes before, in forbidden war archives. There are records of a primitive species that—" "Enough," Vexar snapped, slicing the air with his hand. "Humans are irrelevant. Resume order." The officer froze. The room mocked him too. But Sarah Chen only nodded once, as though marking something important. When the council adjourned amid declarations of unity and promises of heroic combat, jokes about humanity echoed through the halls like schoolyard taunts. How many seconds will the humans last? Do they even have shields? Maybe the invaders will take pity, but the human ambassador walked alone out of the chamber, unhurried. She boarded a small, earth-built transport, rugged, gray, dented, and sealed the hatch behind her. Inside, she activated a secured channel. "Council command, this is Ambassador Chen. Allies arrive in 48 hours. Status of home fleet." A calm, steady voice answered. "All ships in position, Ambassador. Crews are ready." Sarah allowed herself a rare, thin smile. "Good," she said. "The galaxy is watching. Time to remind them why humans don't build pretty ships." And far across the gulf of space, in the silent cold of the Sol system, 67 ancient-looking metal warships waited in the dark, engines dormant, hulls scarred, weapons cold. But beneath those ugly plates of armor, something far more dangerous was stirring. The Sol system was quiet in a way only ancient, battle-scarred veterans could appreciate. To outsiders, it looked peaceful, ordinary. A star, a handful of planets, drifting dust, old orbital stations. Nothing about it whispered danger. But humanity had learned long ago that safety was an illusion easily shattered. And so, hidden within that seemingly ordinary space, the oldest monsters ever forged by human hands lay waiting. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, her stance firm as the reinforced viewports displayed the silent expanse of space beyond. Her dark hair was tied back, her uniform worn from years of service, her face lined with the calm steeliness of someone who had lived through too many wars to count. She had served humanity longer than most of the galaxy's species had existed as unified civilizations. Status? She asked quietly. Her communications officer rotated in his chair. Fleet is holding formation. All ships report combat readiness. Rodriguez gave one slow nod. The bridge of the Indomitable was nothing like the elegant control rooms aliens considered civilized. There were no glowing holograms that flowed from the walls, no graceful touch panels or responsive light fields. Instead, rows of manual consoles hummed with redundant systems, hardwired switches, analog backups, screens bolted to armored frames. It looked primitive. It was anything but. Every outdated display masked layers of hardened networks, black box combat cores, emergency overdrives, and hidden weapon routing systems designed only for one purpose: war. The Indomitable itself was older than Rodriguez's career. Its hull, a thick, brutal block of armor plating, layered with an internal mesh of metamaterials capable of absorbing heat, radiation, kinetic force, and most importantly, energy. Aliens scoffed at metal ships because they misunderstood something fundamental. While they decorated their vessels with shimmering exo-architectures designed to impress each other, humanity had mastered the art of building ugly things that refused to die. And now, 67 such beasts drifted in high orbit around Mars, arranged in a loose formation that looked random to alien scanners, because human commanders had long ago stopped fighting by the rulebook. To any outsider, the fleet looked asleep. But deep inside each ship, thousands of human crew members moved like one organism. Veterans of colony clashes, asteroid mining conflicts, corporate wars, insurgencies, and border skirmishes. People who had lived through the dirty parts of war, the parts aliens believed they were too civilized for. They didn't need elegance. They needed survival. "Captain," said Commander Hayes from the engineering station, wiping his hands on a grease-stained cloth. "Reactor output stable. Overdrive systems running silent. Armor capacitors at readiness." Rodriguez allowed a tiny smile. "Good. Keep them cold. No reason to show our hand early." He grinned. "Aliens will never know what hit them." "They never do," she replied. Across Mars' orbit, every ship in the fleet bore its own scars of age and battle. The UES Thermopylae, a heavy cruiser infamous for surviving a near-fatal reactor breach during the Outer Belt riots, still carried black scorch marks along its port side. The UES Marathon, a missile cruiser, bore a series of repaired gouges from a past kinetic bombardment. Even the smaller frigates like the Sabre, Kestrel, and Montana had hull plating that resembled layered scar tissue. But beneath the dense and ugly welds, their cores were monsters. Each ship was built around humanity's deadliest engineering principles. 1. Kinetic weapons always win. Railguns capable of accelerating tungsten rods to a fraction of light speed. 2. Missiles should think for themselves. Warheads equipped with AI heuristics that rewrote their own targeting mid-flight. 3. Armor should drink energy. Metamaterial grids turning plasma and lasers into power for the ship. 4. Engines should be anger with thrusters. Fusion drives with variable output, safe cruise mode, and war mode. Only humans would build engines capable of burning themselves to death in exchange for a brief burst of suicidal acceleration. Aliens built ships to last for centuries. Humans built ships to survive 15 minutes of hell. And today, hell was coming. Far beyond Neptune's orbit, faster than light signatures flared like newborn stars as the combined galactic fleet approached. Thousands of alien ships decelerated in precise, synchronized patterns, their hulls gleaming with energy. The formation was stunning. Perfect spheres, spirals, and wings of ships arranged like an orchestra preparing for a performance. Even their deceleration burns were coordinated into aesthetic patterns. If war had a fashion show, this was it, and humanity was about to ruin it. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship Cosmic Triumph, Grand Admiral Vexar leaned forward as the human defensive grid appeared on his panoramic display. "Magnify," he ordered. The image sharpened. The bridge erupted in laughter almost instantly. Those ships, those hunks of metal, the stories had been true. They were hideous, brutal rectangles with gun barrels sticking out like primitive spears. No glowing engine rings, no shield auras, no elegant curves. The Indomitable, positioned at the center, looked like a wreck dragged from a scrapyard. Sensors confirm hull composition is iron alloys, one officer managed through stifled laughter. Another added, their lead vessel appears to be operating on fusion drives from the pre-quantum age. A crystalline captain buzzed over the comm line. Are those truly warships? My ancestors had cargo haulers with smoother designs. More laughter filled the channel. But not everyone laughed. The young Zephyrian officer from the council shifted uneasily, eyes widening as he zoomed in on the Indomitable's hallmarks. Admiral, he whispered, these configurations, I've seen them in the archives, classified data, ancient, forbidden files. There are stories, Vexar cut him off sharply, are for children. This is the real galaxy. And humans, primitive as they are, cannot possibly threaten us. Still, the officer did not look convinced, but he said nothing more. Meanwhile, on the Indomitable, Rodriguez received reports that the alien fleet had entered Sol system space. Time to wake everyone up, she murmured. She pressed a control on her armrest. Fleet command to all ships, she said. Battle stations, begin final checks. The response was instantaneous. Lights across the human fleet flickered from blue to red. Alarm klaxons droned. Power conduits hummed. Turrets rotated like predators, tasting blood on the air. Rodriguez's voice remained calm. Keep all systems cold until my order, she said. Let them underestimate us. She stepped forward, staring through the armored viewport as the alien formation approached. Thousands of beautiful ships against 67 ugly ones. A fair fight for humanity. Inside the human flagship, young officers braced themselves at their stations. Veterans tightened their harnesses. Engineers activated silent power relays. Gunners whispered old battlefield prayers from conflicts long forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. Every human had heard the rumors. Aliens thought Earth was weak. Aliens thought Earth was primitive. Aliens thought they could fight without killing. They would learn. Rodriguez placed a hand on the railing before her. All ships, stand by, she said quietly. Her crew responded as one. Aye, Captain. The predators were awake, and the galaxy had no idea. The combined alien fleet fanned out in flawless formation as it crossed the invisible boundary of the Sol system's outer patrol perimeter. Thousands of vessels, each a masterpiece crafted by species who believed war was a controlled, elegant dance, activated their weapons in synchronized brilliance. To any observer, the fleet looked like a starfield made of weapons, a beautiful tapestry of lethal radiance. On the cosmic triumph, Grand Admiral Vexar felt a thrill of confidence surge through him. This was what Zephyrians were born for, commanding vast armadas of advanced ships that practically glided through battle like artists at an easel. Lock targeting arrays on the human formation, Vexar ordered. His bridge officers responded with ceremonial grace. Holographic symbols swirled in the air like living calligraphy. A plasma Lord Commander signaled his readiness, voice crackling like burning embers. Primary cannons charged, minimum output for demonstrative strike. A crystalline collective captain chimed musically. Our phase lances will avoid structural collapse of their relic vessels. They will be disabled, not destroyed. Even in war, aliens still clung to the notion of restraint and honor. Vexar exhaled, satisfied. Very good. Let us show them how civilized powers wage war. Across the system, the human fleet remained silent. Their engines barely glowed. Their armored hulls reflected no light. Turrets facing forward looked inert, asleep. To alien sensors, the human formation appeared to be 67 drifting tombstones waiting for their funeral pyre. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Rodriguez clasped both hands behind her back, perfectly calm. Report, she said softly. Enemy fleet at zero point 0.4 astronomical units, her sensor officer replied. Weapons powering, plasma signatures increasing. Commander Hayes didn't look up from his console. Armor capacitors steady, absorption grids ready. There was a strange kind of peace on the human bridge, a stillness born not of hope, but of preparation. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Grand Admiral Vexar raised one hand. All ships, he declared, fire. The first strike came like dawn exploding. Every alien vessel unleashed its weapons simultaneously. Plasma torrents, quantum lightning, gravitational shear beams, energy lances, void pulse detonators, thousands of multicolored beams surged across space. The combined light storm illuminated the darkness like a miniature supernova. The attack was magnificent, elegant, deadly, and utterly, overwhelmingly devastating. The energy output was so massive that it bathed Mars in reflected light. It washed over the dust plains, casting the red planet in shimmering hues of violet, gold, and electric blue. Alien officers gasped in awe at the beauty of their own firepower. Direct hits across their entire formation, shouted a scanning officer. Power signatures indicate catastrophic energy saturation. Structural integrity must be... But before he could finish, the first anomaly appeared. Instead of dispersing into debris fields, the human ships absorbed the attack. The plasma burst vanished against their armor. The quantum lightning bent inward like water swirling down a drain. The gravitational shear beams dissipated as their energy sank into the silent, ugly hulls. When the light faded, the human fleet remained exactly where it had been. Silent, stationary, completely unbroken. The bridge of the cosmic triumph froze. Vexar stared at the tactical screen, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. "Scan them again," he whispered. The scanning officer's voice cracked. "Sir, their power levels are rising. The attack increased their energy reserves." "What?" Vexar barked. "That is impossible." The crystalline collective captain chimed sharply, tones jagged. "No armor can absorb that kind of plasma output." The mechanoid commander transmitted, "Warning, data contradicts all known material science. Recalculating. Recalculating. Recount." Static swallowed its voice as its logic processors overloaded. Vexar gripped the railing with all four hands. His four eyes trembled. "Fire again. Maximum power." "Sir, should we give a warning broadcast?" "Fire!" On the Indomitable, Rodriguez's eyes narrowed as alarms blared quietly in the background. "Second wave incoming," the sensor officer shouted. "Brace," Rodriguez said calmly. The second strike was not elegant. It was raw violence. Alien ships poured every watt of destructive capability into the human fleet. The space between Mars and the fleet became a blooming starfield of lethal energy, so bright that alien ships engaged emergency filters to avoid sensor burnout. The Indomitable's hull glowed white-hot as thousands of terajoules slammed into it. But the ship held. The armor drank the energy like a starving beast. Inside, capacitor banks swelled with power. Absorption grids hummed. Core relays redirected the incoming energy into every system that could take it. Commander Hayes grinned through the rising reactor glow. "Energy absorption at 93% efficiency, Captain. Reservoirs are nearly full." Rodriguez nodded once. "Good." When the second blinding wave finally faded, the Indomitable ignited. Its fusion engines roared to life as if waking from a century-long slumber. The ship surged forward, slowly at first, then accelerating with terrifying speed. One by one, the other human vessels awakened. 67 engines ignited like angry stars. Variables thrust regulators disengaged. Fusion cores overclocked. Plasma vents glowed with barely contained fury. To the aliens, the human fleet suddenly looked alive in a way they had never imagined. Like metal predators shaking off dust and stretching ancient limbs, rediscovering their hunger. Rodriguez did not raise her voice. "All ships," she ordered, "advance." On the alien flagship, panic spread like wildfire. "Sir, they're accelerating at..." 12 standard gravities. That's impossible. They'll reach our formation in 18 minutes. Break formation, evade. Alien battle formations, designed for aesthetic coordination, long-range firing arcs, and ceremonial balance, shattered instantly. Ships scrambled out of alignment. Energy wings broke apart. Defensive patterns collapsed. A fleet built for beautiful wars was being forced into an ugly one, and humans excelled at ugly. Vexar stared at the screen, horrified. How are they moving that fast? Our intelligence reports were wrong, one officer snapped in panic. They're not primitive, He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Everyone could see the truth. Humanity was the most terrifying military force they had ever encountered. Back on the Indomitable, Rodriguez watched calmly as the distance closed. Captain, her weapons officer said, we are approaching optimal firing range. Rodriguez exhaled once, slow and steady. All ships, she said, weapons free, engage at will. Across the human fleet, turrets rotated with thunderous mechanical precision. Missile tubes opened like the jaws of steel beasts hungry for prey. The galaxy held its breath. The relics were awake, and they were coming. The human fleet hit the alien formation like a meteor swarm propelled by fury itself. 67 ancient-looking ships, squares of metal, scarred hulls, ugly silhouettes, closed the distance with terrifying speed, their engines burning like rage-driven suns. The aliens, despite their advanced navigation systems and elegant formations, could not outrun something that wanted to kill them more than they wanted to live. Because humans did not come forward as soldiers. They came as predators. The Indomitable entered firing range first. Its main railguns, colossal cylinders bolted crudely along the ship's armored ridges, aligned with almost contemptuous simplicity. There was no glowing buildup, no dramatic charging sequence, no multispectral flare, just metal, mechanics, a thunderous electromagnetic snap, and then a tungsten rod, forged in the heart of a dead star and polished only by necessity, ripped forward at 15% the speed of light. It crossed the gap between the fleets in under a second. The first alien ship to die never even saw it. The projectile tore through its energy shield like a stone through water. No resistance, no slowing, no distortion. It punched through the graceful hull, carving a perfectly round hole larger than a shuttlecraft. A heartbeat later, the rod exited the far side in another perfect circle. The ship hung motionless for a moment. Then it disintegrated, atmosphere venting in a silent eruption of glittering debris. Gasps and horrified screams filled alien comm channels. What was that weapon? Our shields didn't register it. It moved too fast. Our barriers don't respond to physical objects at that velocity. This cannot be happening, but it was only the beginning. The rest of the human fleet fired. Railguns thundered like war drums. Missiles streaked forward like angry comets. No glowing energy, no decorative patterns, just raw physics honed to lethal perfection. Their guidance systems, driven by combat-proven AI, twisted unpredictably through enemy fire. Human missiles didn't just evade, they improvised. A volley of guided warheads from the UES Marathon corkscrewed through an alien disruptor field, recalculated their trajectories mid-flight, and targeted weak points identified by their onboard learning algorithms. 3 alien frigates erupted in blossoms of white fire. The crystalline collective ships attempted to phase shift and retreat. Human missiles followed them. Through dimensions, the crystalline vessels reappeared, screeching in harmonic terror, only to be shattered by impacts that cracked their beautiful, glass-like bodies into rainbow dust. A Plasma Lord dreadnought unleashed a sun-hot beam, slicing through the void as though peeling the skin off space itself. It struck the UES Valley Forge dead on. The human ship didn't dodge, didn't break. Its hull flashed white-hot, metal boiling but refusing to melt. Emergency heat sinks detonated outward, venting plasma in controlled bursts. Fire suppression drones swarmed like angry insects. Inside the bridge, choking smoke drifted through vents, but the crew stayed at their stations. "Captain," the helmsman said through gritted teeth, "we've got hull temperatures exceeding structural tolerance." "We don't need the hull to be comfortable," Captain O'Rourke growled. "We need it to kill. Bring us in closer." Point blank. The Valley Forge closed the distance until its own hull nearly scraped the plasma dreadnought. "Main guns," O'Rourke ordered, sweat dripping onto the console. "Fire!" Two tungsten penetrators smashed into the alien ship at knife fight range. The Plasma Lord dreadnought folded inward like a dying sunflower, then burst in a blinding corona of plasma and molten debris. Cheers echoed on the Valley Forge's bridge, drowned by alarms and sparks as another system caught fire. Across the battlefield, the carnage grew. The UES Thermopylae, scarred from half a dozen past wars, found itself surrounded by three mechanoid warforms. Sleek, efficient, perfectly engineered for multi-vector assault. But Commander Sarah Park only smiled grimly. "Rotate ship," she ordered. "Bring all guns to bear." The Thermopylae spun, its ancient stabilizers groaning under the stress. But the rotation brought dozens of turrets into perfect alignment. Then the broadside erupted. Railgun slugs shredded one mechanoid vessel into ribbons of metal. AI-guided missiles burrowed into the second before detonating in a chain reaction of internal implosions. The third attempted to flee, shifting into evasive motion patterns. Park didn't blink. "Nuclear penetrators," she said. "Fire." The torpedo streaked outward. The mechanoid warform erected a smart material shield that shifted dynamically to intercept. The penetrator didn't care. It hit the shield, forced it aside with brute kinetic force, then drove straight into the ship's core. The nuclear explosion vaporized the mechanoid vessel in a sphere of blinding light. Park exhaled. "Show these machines what human engineering can do." The alien fleet was collapsing. Their beautiful formations, once symmetrical marvels, now lay in tatters, ships spinning broken, shields flickering, crews screaming. On the Cosmic Triumph, Admiral Vexar watched the tactical holomap with widening horror. Hundreds, no, thousands of life sign clusters were disappearing faster than he could process. His fleet, his masterpiece, his pride, being dismantled by relics. "Admiral," his tactical officer cried, "we have lost 27% of our ships in the first 90 seconds. "How?" Vexar whispered. "How can primitive vessels?" The officer's voice cracked. "Sir, they are not primitive, they are specialized." Vexar's four eyes darted across the carnage. Human ships were absorbing energy fire, converting it to strength. Human missiles were exploiting weaknesses no alien AI anticipated. Human railguns were bypassing every known energy defense, moving too fast to track, too fast to stop. Human hulls, thick, ugly, brutish, were surviving hits that should have vaporized them. And human tactics, they were not dancing, not posturing, not following the ceremonial rules of civilized warfare. They were killing, efficiently, instinctively, without hesitation. This wasn't war. This was slaughter. Then came the moment that cemented human legend. The UES Resolute, a mid-sized cruiser with a cracked dorsal spine and half a functional engine, took a full tri-beam strike from three Voidwalker frigates. Its hull split open, atmosphere venting, stabilizers failing. It should have died. Instead, Captain Imani Cade keyed manual override, blood dripping down her forehead. "Engineering," she said calmly, "route all remaining power to engines." "But Captain, I know." She locked in a trajectory and aimed straight at a Zephyrian battlecruiser, the Azure Radiance, a ship 200 years in the making, treasured as a cultural icon. On alien comm channels, horrified voices screamed, "The human ship is charging us! Evade! It's suicidal." Cade wiped blood from her eyes. "Tell them," she whispered. "Earth says hello." The Resolute rammed the Azure Radiance at a velocity no alien ship would dare attempt. The impact tore through shield, hull, core, and history, reducing both into a cloud of incandescent shrapnel. Silence rippled across human channels. Then Rodriguez whispered, "She bought us the corridor. Move." Human ships surged through the opening the Resolute created. The slaughter intensified. Alien vessels scattered like prey animals. Rodriguez watched it all unfold with the cold efficiency of someone who had accepted the brutality of war long before the galaxy even learned the word. She raised one hand. "Indomitable," she said. "Main guns. Target the Zephyrian flagship." The barrels aligned. Fire. Two tungsten rods streaked forward. The cosmic triumph had less than a second to live. And Admiral Vexar finally understood. Humanity wasn't primitive. Humanity was perfected brutality. Humanity was the apex predator of war. The cosmic triumph, once the pride of the Zephyrian Empire, jewel of a 1,000-year naval tradition, drifted in space like a wounded leviathan. Its shimmering energy wings were gone. Its hull glowed with leaking atmosphere. Fire suppression drones buzzed helplessly around ruptured decks, their lights flickering like dying fireflies. Inside the bridge, smoke clung to every surface. Cracks snaked across the panoramic viewport. Officers lay slumped over consoles or sprawled on the ground. Sparks rained from overhead conduits, casting dancing shadows on Vexar's ceremonial armor. Grand Admiral Vexar, once the most respected military mind in the galaxy, stood trembling in the haze. His 4 eyes were wide, reflecting what remained of the disastrous battle. Everything he'd believed about war had crumbled. 68% of his fleet, nearly 7,000 ships, were gone. Disintegrated, vaporized, split apart, broken into expanding clouds of metal and fire. And the humans, they had lost none. Not one ship. Not one. He stared at the tactical display again, hoping it would change. It didn't. The human fleet held steady, battered but fully operational. Their ugly silhouettes, scarred and heat-blackened, floated like steel wolves surrounding a bleeding herd. Their weapon signatures remained primed. Their engines glowed, tracking every alien survivor. Predators waiting to finish the kill. A static buzz snapped across the comms. "Admiral," croaked his tactical officer, silver skin charred black around the edges. "Our weapons, depleted. Shields, non-functional. Engines unstable. Hull integrity failing." Another officer added weakly, "The humans, they are repositioning. It appears they plan a second offensive." Vexar swallowed hard. Pride had been scorched out of him hours ago. All that remained was survival instinct. "Open a channel," he rasped. "Wideband?" "Yes. Open it now." The comms officer nodded shakily and tapped commands. A soft click. A hiss of static. Then a connection. "This is Grand Admiral Vexar," he said, voice breaking. "To the human flagship, please, cease fire." A moment of silence followed, long enough for Vexar to feel a spear of dread twist through his heart. Then a calm, unhurried voice, one that had become the embodiment of terror itself, answered. "This is Captain Rodriguez." Her tone had not changed since the battle began. No mockery, no rage, no triumph, just professionalism. Deadly, terrifying professionalism. "Admiral," Rodriguez said, "state your purpose." Vexar's throat tightened. His pride screamed at him to maintain dignity. The Zephyrian honor code warned against submitting to a lesser foe. But humanity was not a lesser foe, and he was out of options. Vexar began, voice cracking. He cleared his throat. "We surrender, please. End this slaughter." A hush fell across the alien survivors listening through their fleet channels. Generals, admirals, commanders, members of 50 different civilizations, heard their once mighty leader beg, a sound that would haunt the galaxy's collective memory for generations. Rodriguez, however, did not sound moved. "You entered human space with weapons drawn," she said. "You attempted to force our surrender." "We were arrogant," Vexar admitted, "blind, ignorant of your capabilities. That ignorance has been corrected. Rodriguez's tone remained flat. Ignorance is not an excuse, Admiral, especially when it gets people killed. This was never meant to. You fired first. Vexar closed his eyes. She was right. He had dismissed the warnings, mocked the primitive, assumed superiority, and humanity had responded in the only language they had ever truly mastered, war. Captain, he said, voice shaking, please, we surrender completely. I beg you, spare the lives of those who remain. A cold silence. Then Rodriguez replied with the verbal equivalent of a blade sliding into his chest. No. Every alien listening flinched in horror. Rodriguez continued, voice as calm as ever. You came here to judge human military capabilities, to mock us, to test us. She paused. We are not finished with the demonstration. Vexar felt his knees weaken. Please, you don't get to beg now, Rodriguez said. You wanted to see what human war looks like. You wanted to witness our limitations. You wanted to measure our threat level. Her tone sharpened, just slightly. So observe. The human fleet moved. Slowly, deliberately, like predators circling for the final strike. Alien channels erupted into panic. Retreat! Scatter! We'll never outrun them. Please, Captain Rodriguez, anyone, help! Vexar slammed his fist on the console. Rodriguez, Captain, the invaders, the real enemy. At that, the human advance stopped. Rodriguez's voice returned, quieter but heavier. What invaders? The ones from beyond the galaxy, Vexar shouted. They destroyed 3 star systems. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They kill everything. We came here to ally with you, to prepare to fight them, not you. Silence thickened the air. Seconds passed, heavy, unbearable seconds. Finally, Rodriguez spoke again, and there was something different in her voice now. Not sympathy, not fear. Recognition. Transmit everything you have, she ordered. The alien bridge crew scrambled, sending all sensor logs of the extragalactic invaders. Dark ships, unnatural weapons, annihilated planets. Rodriguez reviewed them calmly. After a long moment, she said, Captain Martinez. A second human voice joined the channel, crisp and analytical. Yes, ma'am. Assessment? Classic extinction pattern behavior, Martinez said. Similar to Titan Corporation's scorched earth doctrine during the Jupiter conflicts, only scaled up to galactic levels. Vexar blinked. You fought something like this before? Rodriguez answered, We've fought everything. Martinez continued. These invaders aren't conquering, they're erasing life. No diplomacy, no demands, pure extermination. The word hit Vexar like a physical blow. Rodriguez spoke again. Recommendations? Standard anti-extinction protocol, Martinez said. Find them, pin them down, destroy their supply chains, burn every ship they have. In the background, several human officers chuckled darkly. Vexar shuddered. These humans, they were discussing galactic extinction like it was a routine training scenario. Captain Rodriguez, Vexar said desperately, we need your help, your weapons, your tactics, your ruthlessness. We cannot win without you. Rodriguez did not answer immediately. Then, you want humanity's help, Admiral? Yes, Vexar whispered. Then understand this first. Her tone sharpened like a razor. We don't fight like you. We don't care about elegance. We don't follow ceremonial codes. We don't preserve beauty or honor. When we fight extinction, she paused, we fight to win, and we use everything. Vexar bowed his head. I accept. We accept. The entire galactic coalition accepts. Lead us. Rodriguez exhaled softly, as if confirming something she already expected. Good, she said. Signal your survivors. Form up behind us. Her voice dropped into something colder. Something that made every alien officer tremble. We're going hunting. Across the galaxy, as news of the battle reached foreign worlds, Shockwaves rippled through every empire, kingdom, republic, and union. The most advanced fleet ever assembled had been annihilated by 67 relic vessels. Alien scholars fainted. Military analysts panicked. Politicians screamed. Religious leaders called it divine punishment. War colleges rewrote their doctrines in a single night. And throughout it all, one phrase spread like wildfire across the stars. Never underestimate humanity. In a dim cabin aboard her transport ship, Ambassador Sarah Chen read the battle reports in silence. Her aide, Jackson, stood nearby, pale as moonlight. "Ambassador," he managed, "Galactic media are calling it the most one-sided defeat ever recorded. Some say humanity is now the greatest threat to galactic peace." Sarah Chen smiled, a small, tired smile. "Let them think what they want," she said. "The important thing is, they finally take us seriously." The galaxy had rarely been quiet. Not truly, not in millions of years. But in the aftermath of the Battle of Sol, a hush fell over the stars like a mourning shroud. The ruins of the once mighty Galactic Coalition fleet drifted in the void. 7,000 broken warships orbiting the sun in expanding rings of debris. What had been assembled as the most beautiful coalition armada in history now resembled a graveyard of shattered pride. The wreckage glimmered like fallen constellations. But among those drifting monuments of failure, 67 human warships remained intact. Floating, watching, waiting. Predators who had no rivals left in the system. On the UES Indomitable, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge as damage reports streamed in from every vessel. Valley Forge reporting superficial hull damage. Thermopylae sustained inner-deck fires. Contained. Marathon's missile bays at 93% capacity. Kestrel's armor grid fully recharged. Indomitable. Combat readiness at 100%. Rodriguez absorbed the information with the quiet focus of someone who didn't celebrate survival. For humans, winning was never the goal. Finishing the fight was. Commander Hayes finally stepped away from the engineering console, wiping sweat and soot from his brow. "Captain," he said, "I have to say, the aliens put on a hell of a fireworks show." Rodriguez cracked a rare smile. "And we got charged for free." Around her, the bridge crew chuckled softly, exhausted but steady. Veterans of 100 battles, hardened by war until humor was just another form of armor. Outside the viewport, the remnants of the alien fleet attempted to regroup. Broken, limping ships, fusing themselves back together with emergency nanites. Their formations were ragged. Their engines sputtered. Their shields flickered like dying embers. But they were alive. And for Rodriguez, that was enough. "Communications," she said. "Open a channel to the survivors." Static crackled for a moment, then resolved into a trembling voice. This is Admiral Vexar," he managed. His once pristine uniform was blackened. His eyes were sunken, his posture bent. "We have formed a defensive cluster, awaiting orders." Rodriguez didn't miss the phrasing. Awaiting orders. The galaxy's proudest admiral now spoke like a subordinate. "Admiral," she said calmly, "we will begin coordinating the pursuit of the extragalactic invaders immediately." "Yes," Vexar breathed, relieved beyond measure. "Of course, whatever you require." But Rodriguez wasn't finished. "You will follow human tactical doctrine from this point forward," she said. Her tone left no room for negotiation. "Your ships will be refitted according to our operational standards. Your officers will follow our chain of command. Your fleets will abandon ceremonial combat codes and adapt to human warfare methods." Vexar bowed his head. "We accept." Rodriguez leaned in slightly. "Understand something, Admiral. You do not have the luxury of fighting a beautiful war anymore." Vexar swallowed. "I know." "Good," Rodriguez replied. "Then let's begin." The surviving alien vessels slowly repositioned behind the human fleet. It was not an orderly maneuver, not like their once elegant formations. Instead, they moved with the hesitance of wounded creatures seeking protection from a stronger predator. Rodriguez watched with measured eyes. "Helm," she said, "bring the Indomitable forward. Set course for the outer rim." "Aye, Captain." The engines rumbled beneath her feet. "Broadcast to all ships," she said. Message reads, "Follow our lead." Far beyond the galaxy's edge, in a lonely stretch of dark, intergalactic void, the true enemy observed the aftermath. Cold intelligence networks processed the battle recordings. Data packets pulsed through neural conduits woven from exotic matter. The invaders had no emotions, but their algorithms calculated threat levels. And for the first time, they elevated a species to priority level Omega, humanity. They replayed footage of the Soul battle again and again. Humans absorbing energy that should have vaporized them. Missiles rewriting their trajectories mid-flight. Ships ramming at suicidal velocities. Railguns tearing reality with raw physics. Captains making decisions no machine predicted. The invaders did not fear, but they recalibrated. Their models now flagged humanity as an existential variable, one that could disrupt their extinction protocol. A species whose warfare resembled their own ruthless logic. In their cold, emotionless way, the invaders whispered the closest thing their kind had to respect. Adaptive, lethal, unacceptable. And across the void, they began to redesign themselves. Because they understood something every alien empire had forgotten, to defeat humanity, you must become something else entirely. Meanwhile, back in the Sol system, Ambassador Sarah Chen sat beside a small viewport aboard her diplomatic transport. She watched the final debris fields drift across the stars, reflecting orange sunlight. The battle had been catastrophic on a cosmic scale, but Sarah's expression remained unreadable, calm, bittersweet, resolute. Jackson, her aide, entered the room with trembling hands. "Ambassador," he said, "the Council. They're panicking. Some worlds say humanity is too dangerous. Others want to surrender immediately. A few are terrified." Sarah folded her hands. "Good." Jackson blinked. "Good? They finally understand. Humans aren't fragile. We're not quaint. We're not a footnote in their grand history." She leaned back, eyes reflecting the drifting wreckage. "If fear is what it takes for them to survive, then let them be afraid." Jackson swallowed nervously. "What happens now?" Sarah smiled. A small, tired smile that held 1,000 years of human stubbornness. "Now," she said softly, "we hunt the real threat." On the Indomitable, Rodriguez stood at the center of the bridge as the stars slowly shifted across the viewport. The fleet was accelerating, human and alien survivors alike, heading toward the distant outer rim territories where the invaders had last been seen. Rodriguez took a slow breath. "All ships," she announced over the fleet-wide channel. "This is Captain Rodriguez." Silence spread across thousands of alien decks as officers and crew looked up, waiting for the humans' command. "We're leaving Sol behind," Rodriguez continued. "Ahead of us is a species that has destroyed everything in its path. They don't negotiate, they don't surrender, they don't stop." She paused. "The galaxy has never faced an enemy like this." Her voice grew colder. "But we have." A shiver ran through every listening alien. Rodriguez continued, "We do not fight for glory. We do not fight for beauty. We fight because we're good at it, because someone has to, because extinction isn't an option." Her eyes hardened. "And because they threatened our galaxy, our home." She lifted her hand. "Set course for the outer rim. Max burn." The human fleet surged forward, ugly, scarred beasts with engines roaring and hulls glowing. Behind them, the surviving alien warships fell into formation. Their once beautiful vessels, cracked, scorched, broken, trailed behind like humble disciples following their masters into battle. The stars ahead grew brighter as the fleet reached overdrive. One final message echoed across the fleet, Rodriguez's voice a cold, precise weapon. "Prepare yourselves. A beat. We hunt at dawn." The engines ignited. The combined fleet of humanity and humbled alien survivors hurtled into deep space, toward the invaders, toward vengeance, toward the next war. And across the galaxy, every species, friend and enemy alike, hushed as one universal realization settled over them. Humanity had not been underestimated. They had been unleashed.